Hey y'all, welcome back. This word that I have today came through a dream last night, and I just pray that I get this out in the way that God is showing it to me. Okay, so last night I had a dream where I had noticed this small boy, young boy. He was probably, I don't know, like 5. And he was choking. And I was kind of like looking around, like, if anybody else was going to help him, because like in real life, I'm not CPR certified. I'm not good with things like that. And I was kind of just like, is anybody going to help? And nobody else would help. So I was like, well, I guess I can't leave him choking. So I started doing, the Heimlich maneuver on him. And I did it once, and then I looked at him. I was like, are you good? And he was like, he couldn't get his words out. He's like, no, I'm still choking. So I like, okay, here we go again. And that time, up and out came crayons. And I was like, this boy done ate some crayons. I was like, what is this? But this is deep. So, okay. Number 1, the young boy represented stunted growth. So just look at this young boy as a plant. He was still young. He wasn't developed. He wasn't reaching his full potential. He was still young, which again, God was showing me stunted growth. What can prevent a plant from growing? What can stunt a plant's growth? Well, there's a few things, but what God is showing me with this is weeds. Spiritual weeds. And he took me to Matthew chapter 13, verse 7, which reads, some other seed fell among thorny weeds. The weeds grew and choked the good plants. So this is a story about planting seed and where it's a parable. But this particular one is talking about weeds. So again, it says, some other seed fell among thorny weeds, and the weeds grew and choked the good plants. So the crayons can, in this, represent areas of your life that are experiencing stunted growth, right? The areas that may have the weeds wrapped around them that may be causing you to have stunted growth, if that makes sense. So each crayon color can represent something else. So like, I know that purple in the Bible represents wealth, for example. So maybe your purple, your crayon may be purple. Your area that you may feel like is lacking is just not producing fruit, may be a financial area. And so I don't know what those areas may look like for you. It could just be a spiritual stunted growth. Your spirit just may not be growing. I don't know what that, it looks different for everyone, right? So spiritual weeds can look like anxious thoughts and concerns. So your mind just constantly being filled with negativity, anxiousness, hopelessness, negativity, just constant state of worry and fear, lies about yourself or God. So the enemy can use your circumstances when you're, low, you feel vulnerable, and he can come in and start speaking lies into your ears to manipulate you, and you might start believing them, and then there goes your hope. Everything you were hoping and believing for, the enemy comes in and you start letting him talk in your ear. There goes your hope right down the drain. And then you start believing lies about yourself. He could come in and tell you, you'll never amount to nothing. You're not worthy of that. You're not this, you're not that. And then you start believing it about yourself. And then there goes your weed, stunting your growth, suffocating your plant from being able to produce fruit, keeping you stagnant and stunted. Or even believing lies about God. Like, for example, God may not have fulfilled certain things yet in your life that he has promised you because it's not his appointed time. Not because he's a liar, but because it's just not the appointed time. It's coming. It's just not at this very moment. And so the enemy will come in, and because your circumstances look like that, he'll start speaking lies into your ear about God. And then you might start thinking, well, because I don't see these things, I'm not seeing these things right now, God, you start thinking maybe God's a liar. And start thinking lies about God. And that can stunt your growth. That is an example of a spiritual weed. Prioritizing temporary things over eternal, just prioritizing the wrong things in life, rather than focusing on things that actually hold true value in this life. Worldly things versus worldly and material things versus, the things of God. The things that are not of this world, like prioritizing the wrong things, that can stunt your growth. That is a spiritual weed. Worrying and fear, like I said, worrying about your finances, worrying about your health, worrying about jobs. If God wanted you to have a job right now, you would simply have a job. Maybe there's something else he's wanting you to do. Maybe there's a business that he's wanted you to start, right? But you're so worried about, I need to get a job out here. But God, maybe you've applied for a million places and nobody's calling you back simply because God doesn't want you in a workplace at the moment. He may just want you sat down at home, but guess what? He's going to take care of you if that's his plan over you. If it's his will, it's his bill. He's going to take care of you. If he's placing you in a situation, a temporary holding space, right? He's going to provide for you in that. I mean, look at your circumstances now. You might not have a car. You might not even have a house. But are you taken care of daily? Do you have the things that you need daily? Are you still breathing, right? If God takes care of you, your answer to that would be yes. He takes care of the birds. Why would he not take care of you, right? Something like that. You get what I'm saying? Just worrying about food, clothes, new house, new cars. Like, God knows that you need all of these things, right? And he will make sure that you have them at his appointed time. It's coming. It's coming, but you have to continue to, anytime the enemy comes into your ear and starts speaking those lies about yourself or God, you have to tell him no, block him out, uproot that weed. Don't allow that weed to grow and then start suffocating you where you can't produce the fruit that you need, and the beautiful plant and the beautiful fruit that you need to produce. When you're sitting in a place like that, a place of negativity and just a place of doubt and hopelessness, and you're staying in that place, you're not gonna produce. And it's like the Israelites in the wilderness. They wandered for 40 years. God gave them the things that they needed even in that time. But they didn't believe, right? God was still providing for them in this time, right? Manna. He was making sure that they had everything they needed, but they still complained and they still didn't believe. They were disobedient and they didn't believe, right, in what God had showed them and told them. And so they never made it. You can't be cycling. Like, don't allow yourself to cycle and to continue to cycle like the Israelites in the wilderness did. Don't allow yourself to stay stuck. It is up to you whether you stay stuck or not. Like with this wedding banquet, this wedding feast, right, that God is talking about. And when I read yesterday, it said, he invited lots of people to come, but some people weren't worthy to come. And what he meant by that was some people that were invited, like God's like, hey, I've got this stuff prepared for you over here. Come sit and eat with me. These people were too worried about doing what they were doing over here that they didn't show up. They were off doing business. They were off worried about their jobs. They were off worried about other things that they didn't even make it to the banquet to sit and feast with God. They did not make it to sit down and have and celebrate and enjoy the things that God had for them, right? And because they were off wandering, doing other things. So make sure that you are, whatever this may look like for you in whatever areas, right, that you're struggling in, make sure you are plucking it up, because, these things can grow and they can fester and they can really stunt your growth and how you move forward and how you produce. Know that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Like, worry about living in the moment and, and how can you keep the weeds out? By how I just explained it. You can also, spiritual discipline, prayer, worship, Bible study, just reading God's word and learning his character and reminding yourself who he is. And fasting, which brings me to, like this fast that he has instructed me to do. Now, y'all don't have to do the fast, but, you can join if you would like. The fact that he is delivering, us out of Egypt and bringing us into this wedding feast, right? The things that he has had stored up for us. He's bringing us into abundance and prosperity and all of the things, and when he delivered the Israelites out of Egypt, he had them, do the Passover, right? As like a celebration of being, swiftly delivered out of Egypt. And he, this is a swift thing that's happening. And so he has kind of led me to do a 7-day fast starting tomorrow, Friday to Friday, where, in this Passover that they did, it was unleavened bread that he had them eat for 7 days. Bread without yeast. Do you have to necessarily do that? No. You can eat however God leads you, right? It's not necessarily what they did, right? It's the reasoning behind it. And it's a time to celebrate, being delivered out of the old and into the new, and just to celebrate with God and to sit and thank him and, thank him for all of the things that he has delivered you from. Just remember where he has brought you from. Remember all of the times that he was there for you, provided for you, and delivered you out of certain situations. It's just a time he's leading me to just have a time of Thanksgiving and celebration with him, right? Thanking him in advance for what he is doing and what he has done, and just kind of setting aside time every day for the next 7 days to, sit and reflect and just sit with God on those things. And so you may choose to do the fast like a fruit fast, a water fast, whatever you want to do. There's no specific, like I said, the Passover was unleavened bread without yeast. If that's what you choose to do, then that's fine. It really doesn't, it's however God leads you, right? But it's all the same fact of the matter, which is celebrating with God and thanking God. And so, that is a way to keep the weeds out, right? Even though I don't see these things today, it doesn't mean that what God said isn't coming to pass, because it is, right? And so I'm going, instead of saying, God, like, I don't see these things you're talking about, I don't think they're really going to happen, and then allow myself to, no, I'm going to thank God for what he said, because he said what he said. And if he said the time is now, then the time is now, whether I see it today, tomorrow, next week, or even next month. It's now. And these things are happening, and they're happening through your obedience and through your faith and through your steadfastness, right? Not through stinking thinking, negative thinking, and just keeping yourself cycling and wandering through the wilderness. That's not gonna, and so, yeah, I pray this makes sense. I pray that I got it out in the way that I needed to. And I pray that it gets to who it needs to get to at the right time. And just know that it is time. If God said it is, it is. And remember, though, God lives outside of time. So sometimes he does give us very specific dates of when something's going to come to pass. But sometimes he just says, it's soon. It's soon. And remember, though, because God lives outside of time, his soon is not our soon. So we have to remember that, right? But we have to also know that he is not a man that he shall lie. And if he said a thing, then he said a thing. And you have to stand on it. You have to believe in it. You have to stay in alignment. And don't allow yourself to cycle. That's what the Israelites did, for 40 years, and they never made it to the promised land. So, yeah, that's the word. I pray that it blesses y'all. I pray that, again, it gets to who it needs to get to at the right time. If y'all feel led to sow, I appreciate every seed that is sown. My information will be there as always. And I pray y'all have a blessed rest of your day. And I will see y'all in my next video, whenever that may be. Okay, bye.